Hi everyone, my name is Anita and I will present my research project about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or known as STEM learning in early childhood education. Before I start my presentation, I would like to acknowledge my research teacher Gunjan as she guided and gave some pieces of advice regarding my research project since I did my research proposal. And as well, I would like to acknowledge people who participate in my questionnaire and interview question for this research project. The completion of my research project wouldn't be happen if not because of them. Now I will start my presentation and explain the contents that cover my STEM research project, including the rationale and then the research question for my research project, the approach, philosophy, design, and methodology, and then get the ethical consideration when collecting data for the research project, and then the result of finding from the questionnaire and interview, analysis and interpretation of data, and then recommendation and conclusion and reference. So let's begin. There are reasons why I, as an early childhood educator, think that STEM education is important for early childhood, including it was a focus of fun approach as young children are naturally curious about the world and love to learn to play. Activities that involve experimentation, discovery, building, or collecting things are great ways to teach young children. The second one, STEM experience are designed to be developmentally appropriate across all year levels. A great STEM task is challenging and push children to seek new information to solve a problem. However, it's also important in STEM education to getting the balance right between making the activity challenging and keeping it within the children's capabilities. The third one, STEM activities are designed around opportunities for children to solve the real-world challenges which is relevant to their life. STEM experience is hands-on, experiential learning, and practical inquiry processes. Learning by doing is an essential part of teaching young children. Hands-on activities make STEM experience more fun, easier to engage with the content and facilities, the development of necessary skills for the children, such as critical thinking, creativity, engineering design process, and problem-solving skills. The last one, STEM education is a skill base to focus in other skills such as collaboration, estimating, calculating, measuring, hypothesizing, and communicating. The use of open-ended inquiry tasks allows children to select from their own skills to direct their own journey towards a creative solution to the problem. So this approach often is the best way to exercise children's creativity and provide opportunities for children to try out their skill. So based on this reason, I'm looking at two research questions for my STEM research project. So the first one is, how do early childhood educators incorporate STEM into the early childhood curriculum? And the second one, what teaching strategy do early childhood educators utilize to involve children in STEM experience in early childhood setting? So my aim for this research project is examine other early childhood educator perspective of how to embed STEM education into their curriculum in early childhood setting, then explore educators' wide range teaching strategy to teach children in STEM. The next one, I will talk about the framework for the research projects. So the first one is, I'm gonna talk about the philosophical worldview first. So my research project was influenced by a constructivist worldview, as I believe individuals develop subjective meaning of my experiences and implication directed toward particular object or things. So these meanings are varied and multiple. So I look for the complexity of view rather than narrowing definition into a few categories or ideas. Therefore, it aims to rely as much as possible on the participant view of the situation being studied. And then I also use the paradigm of interpretivism, which to understand the diverse way of seeing and experience the world through different contexts and cultures, and also avoiding the bias in studying the events and the people with my interpretation. So it was using a natural setting as the research project took place in early childhood settings. Then, sorry. So the research approach. So my research project using a qualitative approach to examine participant view of STEM education in early childhood setting. And then the research design was conducted through ethnography by using questionnaire and interview to understand the design context, including goals and audience. My research method was using open-ended question for both questionnaire and interview. I use an inductive approach in my research project. I use different data collection tools to describe a picture of the phenomenon that is being studied. The triangulation in this research project used two data collection tools, which are questionnaire with 10 questions and then interview with 7 questions. The original plan was to conduct the interview face-to-face, but because of the COVID restriction and the schedule between me and also the participant didn't match, so the interview conducted in the written format. In addition, the participant also given the consent form and the letter of the introduction to research project. So the participants for this research project were 12 early childhood educators with a diverse background of educational qualification from certificate 3, diploma, bachelor, and then master of teaching. Also, to ensure that research project participants understood the question given, I did a pilot tested for the questionnaire and interview question. When I did my research project, I also need to consider about the ethical, so including the conflict of interest, because some of the participants are my workplace colleagues. So I maintain my professionalism in not influencing the outcome for the research. Also the consent, I gave the consent to the participant in written format, and then the participant signed the consent freely without pressure to participate in my research project. I also maintain the confidentiality of my research project by not exposing the result without permission from the participant for any purposes. Also, my research project followed by the regulation of the Australian Code for the Responsible Conduct of Research and Early Childhood Australia Code of Ethics. Next one, I'm gonna talk about the result of the questionnaire. So the questionnaire got 10 questions. I'm gonna just briefly talk about the result for each. So the question number 1. So we got 12 from 12 participants, 75% of them have a diploma of early childhood education and care as the background for education qualification. And then 58.3% of them, they have been working in early childhood setting for under 2 years. And then question number 3, so only 2% from 12 participants, they're working as a casual only. and the rest like part-time and full-time. Question number 4. The participants were asked like what aspect on they when they're teaching STEM education and early childhood, like how they gonna teach the STEM education. So they respond like children discuss the ideas with other children educated about STEM learning. And then there also can be the educator present and explain the STEM ideas to the whole class. It's like both of them match like 83.63%, and like only 66.67 they respond like children make decision about how they gonna learn the STEM. And question number 5. So the learning material, I choose like iPad, camera, or computer, and I use like range, I will use, I could choose, I need, and absolutely need. So the responses, like most of them, 50% they said I absolutely need a camera. And then like the least one is like I could use, I could use the camera. And then yes. And then the next one is 9 from 12 participants like stated that they believe and cultural perspective is gonna influence their teaching STEM education for the children. Question number 7. So most of them, like 75%, they said they gonna use digital technology in daily. So daily, like computer or tablet or smartphone for their activities. Activities rather than for work. So maybe they at home they can use the digital technology. Question number 8. Like 7 from 12 participants, like they mentioned, they have support at their workplace, mostly about technical and pedagogical support to teach STEM education in early childhood setting. Question number 9. Like 50% of the participants, they have like 2 years experience in STEM education. And then the last one, what's the element that affect their STEM teaching for the children? So like the questionnaire responses from the participant, like 66.67%, they respond of lack of educate STEM training for the educator. The next one, then we'll talk about the result of the interview. So the interview have like 7 questions, and then based on the responses, I had like 2 teams that emerged from the interview responses regarding how early childhood educator incorporate STEM education into their early childhood curriculum. So the first one is children interest in play, and the second one learning material resources used for the STEM education. So the first one, the children interest in play, like from the 12 participants who signed the consent, 5 of them mentioned that to incorporate STEM education into their curriculum, the educator should look at what children interest emerge from their play. So like participant number 3 said like, I try to distribute experience for children in a such way that STEM education is part of everyday work as a natural part of it and based on children interest on their play, children knowledge and skill and strength. And then about the learning material, so eight participants answered like exciting learning experience and manipulative material will help educators to promote STEM education for children, which also support educator to design a weekly curriculum as they find it out what the trigger children interest in that play. So For example, the participant number 5 said like by providing exciting learning experience that will invite the curiosity of the child. So I'm gonna talk about the analysis and the interpretations of data regarding the research question, regarding of the research questions. So I'm gonna talk about the first one. So children play follow their curiosity and interest usually generated by multiple contexts that they had heard or seen from the stimulus of the environment, both of home and early childhood setting. Therefore, early childhood educator adapted STEM education to meet children's interest when children present interest in their play. So this theme was aligned with the literature review called STEM Practice in Early Years in 2018 by Campbell, Howitt, McDonald, and Spalding, which stated that environment of play evoke children's interest and provide opportunities to children to explore and build skills, including critical thinking and problem solving. The learning material that educator provided in the environment, both indoor and outdoor, such as loose park, Play-Doh, sandpit, Lego, could lead children exploration into STEM education as they manipulated the material in creative way. Likewise, the early years learning framework also stated that environment that flexible spaces and patterns support children learning which respond to their interests and abilities. And then for the second one, for the research question number 2. So to stimulate children learning in STEM, early childhood educators should push children thinking using various teaching strategies such as questioning, demonstrating, role modeling, encouraging, giving feedback to children learning and development. According to the literature review, the design and the validation of an early childhood STEM classroom observational protocol in 2015 by Milford and Tippett, they mentioned about questioning is the most important aspect in STEM education as the children can ask questions about things around them, explore and make discoveries. Likewise, the EYLF also stated that early childhood educators who engage in intentional teaching recognize that children learning and development occurs through conversation, interaction, and challenging experiences. Furthermore, various teaching strategies used, including questioning, explaining, problem solving, demonstrating, modeling, will extend children learning and higher level thinking skill. Based on the analysis and interpretation data, I found the limitation for my research project in terms of generalizability due to the small sample size of the participant, because only 8.3 of the participants hold the bachelor and 58.3 of the participants working only under 2 years in early childhood setting. Also, because of the COVID restriction in New South Wales and different issue with the participants such as schedule for the interview, made the interview done through the written format. So I found that the responses given from the interview might be different perspective from mine, from I thought, as I can't get enough confirmation about the responses. And another limitation was 58.3% of the participants responded they did not have known their own weakness or strength regarding STEM education. So it gave insight that the responses might not valid enough. Based on those limitations, so I have like recommendation, like I have like 2 recommendations. Like the first one, provide more support to the educator who lacks STEM education training in early child setting. Primarily technical and pedagogical support, because most of the participants in this research stated that they will need support for the STEM education, even though they have experience in STEM context. Also, the second one, we can conduct a performance review for the early childhood educator in teaching STEM education, like the performance review is aims to determine the strength and the weakness of each educator, like on how much educator knowledge and skill of STEM education in early years. So therefore, by the performance review, the educator can reflect on their teaching and practice on STEM education for children to from them. Last one. So the conclusion from my research project of the STEM learning in early childhood education is STEM education is important for young children to develop basic knowledge and skill, including encouraging critical thinking, problem solving, evoking children's interest, and becoming active participants in their learning. Also, learning environment in early childhood setting that intrigue children's interest will help early childhood educators in the future to design curriculum and assess children's learning and development. Furthermore, when the educator teaches STEM education for young children, it needs a wide range of teaching strategy, including questioning, encouraging, demonstrating, role modeling, scaffolding, and giving feedback to ensure children build skills and knowledge that are important for their holistic learning. So that's all for my presentation of my research project. Thank you everyone for listening, and some feedback will be appreciated. Bye.